evening or good afternoon, good morning, good evening or good afternoon, depending, of course, where you're watching from. This is Let's Humanize the Workplace with Vivian Aqua, and I'm going to show myself up. But just let me know if you can see this episode, right? Because I'm always curious and I'm not receiving anything from LinkedIn to see if everything is working. So please bear in mind, I'm going to, show myself, but just see if everything is hanky-dory. Okay, I see a lot of people watching. Let me show myself now. Hi, my name is Vivian Aqua, and I'm the workplace wellness advocate, helping organizations with keeping their people healthy, happy, and safe. And I organize workshops for creating a thriving workplaces. So creating healthy workplaces where you can build on your team, where you can raise awareness regarding regarding workplace wellness. So that can be financial well-being, it can also be mental well-being, and it can also be career well-being. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know. I'm going to show my slides. So today on the menu, please let me know if you're team live or team replay. So I'm based in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and I'm curious to hear where you are watching this from. So from time to time, I have to, sneak peek on my mobile, because I know that there are a lot of people anticipating this broadcast with the special lady that I'm going to announce later on regarding employee branding. But I'm always curious about where you're watching this from. So, and if you're watching the replay, let me know if you're team replay, then I'll try to, reply to you later on, and also tag the guest speaker of today when you have a question concerning her, right? So I can see a comment right now. Yes, wow, thank you, Claire. Thank you for joining us. Never seen a live on LinkedIn. Thank you for watching this. This LinkedIn Live has been going on, I think, starting from February. So know that wherever you're watching from, right? So I'm broadcasting this towards Facebook, on my personal page, my business page. I'm broadcasting it towards YouTube. I'm broadcasting it towards Twitter and at LinkedIn at the same time. And I am so excited. Hi, Bogdan. Thank you. Yes, LinkedIn Live. So excited, right? So if you're team live or team replay, please let me know. And if you want to share this broadcast, please share this broadcast, because the more, or at least give us a like, give us a heart, or give us a bulb, or give us a heart to the, hi, 𝗕𝗿𝗃𝗃. Yes, Marilyn Yee, my guest speaker of today. Sorry, I'm so excited because I'm doing a morning show, and a lot of people have been asking me about this and about doing this. Know that our guest speaker is all the way live from Asia, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this live session in the morning. So thank you for watching this, and please, share the love, clap for us, or use the light bulb if you think that the thing that we're sharing is insightful. I have to breathe because I'm getting a bit nervous and a bit, hyper. So I'm going to breathe and let my nerves calm myself. So the thing that I wanted to share today is maybe something philosophical, but you see this image, right? You see a seed, and you see a plant becoming a plant, and maybe a plant becoming a tree. And it goes the same with your business. Everything you plant as a seed, once you nurture that, it will grow, it will excel, it can become much better. It's also a way for you to gain new clients. But refer to your people as those seeds, and see that your people are not developing themselves, or they're not developing their teams. Do you get where I'm going with this, with my story? By not developing your people or your teams, your company is not growing, is not opening new doors, is not building on new relations, and is not, being top of mind of your clients or your future clients. And that's why I am advocating for team building. I'm advocating for personal development, because without that, you cannot be that top of mind company, or your team cannot be that top of mind team for building relationships with new clients. So if you have something to share or something to add on that, or any questions regarding team building or workshops regarding like that, please let me know and I can help you out. But keep this picture in mind, that you need to develop your team, and you need to develop your team members to let them grow and to see new insights, especially in this digital era that we're living. We're living in a fast pace where we need to be agile. We need to grow ourselves in this fast-paced work environment. And one of the things that we are going to talk about during this episode is culture. But know that it's all up to you and your people to work on a healthy culture, to build a healthy culture. Because like Peter Drucker says, culture eats strategy for business. So for breakfast, sorry, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So whatever strategy you have, and your culture is an unhealthy culture, or is not that healthy enough, know that your strategy won't work unless you work on that culture. That's a thought for the week. So I'm going to add my guest speaker for today, and her name is Marilyn Yee, and she is a global employer branding expert. She found her way unconventionally into the world of employer branding, and when her then manager asked her if she would like to start selling workplace culture, she said yes, of course. And today I'm going to discuss with Marilyn Yee, employer branding to infinity and beyond. Welcome, Marilyn.
Yay, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Are you excited?
I am. I think your butterflies came to me.
Yeah.
They flew across the computer. Hi, everyone. Yeah.
So can you share where you're from, where you are streaming from at the moment?
So I'm currently at home, and home right now is Singapore. So kind of my background, I was living in Amsterdam for a couple of years and only just moved back to Singapore. Actually, not just moved back. I keep saying I just moved back. It's been a year since I've moved back, and since then I've had the opportunity to also work on employer branding in some of the very cool companies in the Asia Pacific region. Grab was one of them, and most recently I'm at 𝗘𝗺𝗽𝗆, which is a travel tech startup going scale up. Yeah, so I'm very excited to share my perspectives on employer branding, having been in 3 different companies, worked on 3 different aspects of employer branding. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yes. If you have any questions for Marilyn, or maybe for me, or just want to share your experience regarding employer branding, know that you can share them on LinkedIn, or share them on Facebook, or on YouTube, or on Twitter. I can only include the comments from Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, right? But I'll try to look on my screen on LinkedIn from time to time and do a shout out to you. So know that we'll do our best to include you, and know that afterwards, if you have a question or have something to share, tag us so that we can reply to your comments afterwards. So let's go to the first question. Can you share your vision regarding employer branding to infinity and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about the title, Infinity and Beyond, and I think it's really apt because it's really still yet to be defined, this sphere of employer branding. And every single kind of peer I've talked to in the community of employer branding has a different definition, also depending on the company that they're in, what their view is. But my own personal vision is that employer branding at some point will be given equal weightage, or even perhaps more weightage, as part of the global company brand, because that's what it is. Like, employer brand is not a separate brand or a sub-brand, as some people think it is. Employer brand is part and parcel of a company's brand. So my personal vision is that, more and more experienced brand professionals, like people who work in brand consulting agencies or work on branding functions in the companies, would take an interest in culture and people. Same like me. Do you want to sell culture? Do you want to brand culture? Come join the industry and bring that expertise with them. So, because employer brand is really, it does require understanding of brand theory, communication, sociology, psychology, marketing, and the application of it in the real world with real people. It shouldn't be a side project, as it's sometimes considered in some companies. That's my take on it.
Mm-hmm. You're mentioning a side project. So what are the definitions then of that side project? What do you see that makes you see that you can define that company using employer branding as a side project?
Well, I've seen in many different circumstances. Like, for example, it could be like a recruiter taking on another portfolio on top of their core recruiting jobs, because maybe it's a lull period. Or I've seen peers that have in their portfolio internal comms, employer brand, external comms, corporate social responsibility, I don't know, diversity and inclusion, like all these topics, which are quite big and meaty topics, but they're all lumped together into one person's job description. So, I mean, you can already tell how much emphasis is given to that topic if 6 different people topics are lumped onto the back of one person's job description. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Let's go to the next question.
So this was my question to you also. And I was just wondering, who actually should be responsible for workplace wellness? And I think I asked this from a point of like, workplace wellness is actually a big part of culture building. So I was curious.
I do believe that it is a responsibility of the employee and the employer. My but there is the employer facilitates it. It starts with the employer by raising awareness regarding workplace wellness, but it's the responsibility of both. Because if you're, as an employee, not using the benefits or not seeing the benefits for yourself, it's hard to sell that towards an employer to keep that workplace wellness standing. And then again, as an employer, there are so many beautiful examples where companies do share their workplace wellness, or they do put their people first by providing financial workshops, financial well-being workshops, or they provide coaching or mentoring to advance in career or creative promotion, right? I do believe that companies need to facilitate, especially now within the time of war for talent. Yeah. What are the top 3 employer branding misconceptions? Give us a juice.
Disclaimer, this is like my personal opinion, but I think I do see, like, I do talk to a lot of people in the community. So I think the first misconception is that employer brand is only about recruitment. Yes, it is primarily, it's talent attraction. But if you think about the same way that a corporate brand function operates to attract investors, partners, or customers, there's also a retention and loyalty component. So
can you repeat that again? You need to please repeat the last sentence, because we value our customers and we put them on a pedestal, but we don't do that. We don't give the same treatment towards our talent and employer branding. So please repeat. Sorry, I can be quirky sometimes, but when you're sharing something that is so valuable, you have to repeat it. That's my rule.
Okay, so I'll repeat it. So the same way that corporate brand functions work to attract investors, partners, customers, it's not only the attraction component, there's also the retention and the loyalty component. And when we apply this to employer branding, it's the kind of section of the journey where what happens when someone joins your company, or what happens when someone leaves your company. Because these days people may come back, and we call that like a boomerang, right? They may leave because it's not the right fit at this point in time, but they may come back because they feel it's a great fit this time. Or you want them to leave with still feeling positive about your company, and that they would still recommend great talents which they think are fit. And people talk. We live in an era of like social media networking. Look at us talking across continents. So I think the first misconception is that if your employer brand is only focused on recruitment, then you're not fully utilizing what employer brand can really do for your company. So that's the first one.
I'll keep that one. That's the first one. The second one.
The second misconception is that employer brand is just all about managing social media and making things look pretty.
Okay, you have to please repeat that one. Yes, please repeat that.
So the second misconception is that employer brand is just about social media and making things look good on social media. So in my opinion, social media is purely a channel. It's a channel where we amplify and showcase the culture, but culture needs to be built from within. So you need to have a solid foundation for your culture, or you'll get tons of negative pushback. You can have like the most beautiful video online, and then you get comments below saying, that's not true, that's inauthentic, and that's not what and then you get people joining a company because they bought into all your content online, and then they leave within 3 months and saying, that's not what I signed up for. So like
I have an example, right? There was this luxury luggage company in America last year who received a lot of backlash because they were using Slack, a separate Slack group where they complained about the culture, and it ended up being viral on newspapers. It ended up viral on so many platforms, and that's not what I want, or at least we want for you as your company. You have the time to prevent this. So please take whatever misconception, whatever Marilyn is sharing, and also what I'm sharing today, please let that inspire you to do better.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, social media is a kind of different genre of advertising, right? It's built on, and nowadays you see influencers getting backlash for just doing product placements, but not giving relevant content to their viewers. In the same way, so how do we view consumer marketing, and how do we view corporate marketing? It's the same way we should be viewing employer branding. So, if you're just focused on social media and content production, then you might fall into the trap of producing irrelevant content just because you have certain KPIs to hit, like I need to produce 10 blog posts this month, blah, blah, blah. And that's why it's so important to have an EVP brand exercise, which I think we'll talk about a bit more later, about the employee value proposition. Yeah. So that's the second misconception.
Cool. Yeah.
And the third one is that the misconception is that employer brand has to sit within the HR function of a company, or that employer brand is a HR thing because it has to do with people. That's the third.
It should be. It's a joint effort from every. You're gone. Are you there?
I'm here. I'm here.
Yes.
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 Yes, it should be a
joint effort from everybody with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, most of us still do sit under HR. But when you see the trend in the industry and how companies are, reorganizing their teams, you can see that that's not a given. A lot of my peers do sit under marketing teams or brand teams. So a lot of people still report into different structures. So I think, of course, it still might make sense for some of us to sit under the people team. Also, HR is now being rebranded as people. So a lot of us do sit under people and culture. Myself, I do sit under people and culture in my current organization, but it's not a given. So that's the third misconception.
Thank you for sharing. And it also goes into the question that you have for me as well.
Yeah, so I thought that since we're talking about culture, and as culture is basically essentially the product that employer brand is helping you to kind of position and sell. So what is it really? Can it be developed from scratch, or must it be grown from something that already exists?
Yeah, the way I look at an organization culture, it's the personality of that organization, the way it welcomes you, the way it treats you, not only as a client, but also as an employee, also as a visitor, and the values, the missions, the ethics. It's something that isn't always tangible, but it's there. It makes a person feel welcome, or it makes a person put on a mask. And the second part of your question, it's a challenging one because yes, it's easier to develop a culture once you're doing a startup or once you are in a smaller team. And it's also something that can be grown. But for the companies that are already there for like 30 or 50 or 40 years, my advice is work on the team culture, because working on an organization culture, on a huge organization, it's a challenge. I would rather challenge the managers to work on creating a healthy team culture, because that's something that you can work on together with your team members. And you can create that healthy work environment where people feel at home, feel safe, and feel they can bring their whole selves into the workplace.
Yeah, funnily enough, I was just watching a documentary about the future of work yesterday, and the host was highlighting, how is work today different from work like maybe a few years ago, and of course we need to acknowledge the huge millennial workforce right now, and their kind of emphasis on choosing a job that has purpose, and that has purpose that matters to them. And also the second thing was that now people are encouraged to bring their whole selves to work. Previously people working in, I don't know, factories, putting on uniforms, being not themselves, and now you're encouraged to bring your passion to work. And that has, I
the
think,
lines between yes, but also what I wanted to add, the line between work and life and your private life, of your personal life, is how do you say it? It's getting gray. It's getting gray. Whereas the one day you have to work a bit longer, or sometimes you interact with your colleagues in a friendly way, right? So we have to keep in mind that we cannot be always happy in the workplace. We have to, show, sometimes we have to show our emotions, and if that means crying, or if that means yelling at a certain dose, and not, cursing the team members out, but know that you're allowed to bring in your emotions, because otherwise you cannot switch yourself off. It will cause stress, which is unhealthy for you anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So the next question that I have is, how can employer branding contribute towards creating a healthy work environment?
When I first saw the question, I was like, okay, let's just first define what a healthy work environment means. And in my opinion, it's about having, mentally healthy, engaged and motivated employees who are happy to come to work every day. Or, if they work remotely, then they're happy to contribute 100% to the success of their project or their organization. So I think from a larger industry perspective, and this is from an employer brand perspective. So the world has only started to talking about topics like women in tech and equality in the workplace and mental well-being. They're like trending words right now, right? And it was only in the last few years. And I think that has a lot to do with a lot of some of the bigger global employer brand players who have chosen these topics as their narratives and almost set as a standard to the rest of the world on what a healthy work environment means. So suddenly you see a lot of companies wanting to talk about how much diversity they have, wanting to put all their narratives out on the internet, and I mean it's good because there's a ripple effect. Smaller companies now who aspire to be those larger companies might start adopting these new initiatives to encourage inclusion, to encourage mental health, and that's good for employees because it takes a societal movement so large to see change happening. So on a very, very large industry perspective, I think that's how employer brand, or the bigger players, the teams of more resources, the teams that are have influence to push for these narratives. That's the positive effect that they're bringing into other workplaces. And I think on an internal level, so if you're an employer brand team within the organization, I think you have to see, depending on where you're positioned. So again, back to the reporting structures, because are you in a position, ideally you want to be in a position where you have an overview of the entire employee journey. So also back to not just looking at recruitment and making sure that it aligns to the employee value proposition. So what can you as a company promise and offer to people who choose to join you? So as an employer brand team or professional, you almost want to become that people consultant within your company, where you're able to draw the dots and push for people initiatives that you know will fit your culture, or that's what the talent market wants to see.
So and also an add-on towards that, right? It's I see employer branding as a way to lure a client to an attractive brand. However, I do feel like when you're doing that, be honest. Don't oversell yourself and not where the client or where the talent can see that you're not living up to your promises, because they can see through that, and it will hurt your company longer if you attract somebody and the person stays for like 6 months or 1 year or 1.5 years, because you invested in that person and that person invested in your company, and they leave. And then in this day of age, it will take at least 6 months, and sometimes for some roles, it will take at least 2 or 3 years to replace that talent.
And the cost of attrition is expensive.
Yes, it's very expensive, and that's something that I think that organizations don't see. They don't see it as that, but see it as you not being able to help your clients. See it as you not being able to grow. See it as you losing a talent while you could have invested just a small percentages of the cost of retention to keep that talent in-house.
Yeah, it has to be authentic. And I think the problem is that most companies actually don't know who they are or what they stand for. And that is where employer branding can come in to help you define that core value of self. Like, just as a person needs to have this feeling of self, awareness, a company similarly needs to be aware of what they're doing well, what they're not doing well, what do employees like, what do employees not like, what do candidates like, what do candidates not like, and see if that aligns to the overall business goal.
Ask the right questions, because it cannot be a one-sided relationship where you think you know what people like without asking for feedback. It's all about nourishing ourselves and nourishing the company to excel, to grow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually asked quite a similar question, right? Yeah, but I actually also had an example to kind of illustrate this, how employer branding can actually contribute to workplace wellness. And so, for example, if because as an employer brand team or professional, you would be kind of in a nice position where you're getting the external feedback of what people are thinking and feeling towards your company. And then you also get the kind of internal vibe about what employees are feeling or asking for. So, for example, if you notice that work-life balance is the #1 reason why people are leaving your company, you could maybe see this on, I don't know, Glassdoor, Blind, Reddit, everywhere. You can actually bring this up to management, to leadership, show them the cost of replacement, show them the cost of burnout leave, show them the cost of brand damage to brand equity, because maybe your Glassdoor ratings are dropping, like, I don't know, really fast, or like candidates, number of candidates rejecting because they saw those Glassdoor reviews, and how, just by listening to employees, implementing a more balanced work schedule, implementing small things like meditation sessions or nap pods or whatever your employees are asking for, that can be a quick win.
Or organize workshops, right? Workshops regarding healthy eating, or do a financial well-being, or bring in role models. We need to learn from each other. Bring in role models, or add in a mentoring.
Bring in Vivian to your bring in Vivian to your company to do a workshop.
And also hire you can hire us both, right? Hire her to do your branding, because I see, I look at a lot of job vacancies regarding employer branding because I'm doing my research regarding that. And the thing that I see is all about luring the customer or the talent and not showing what you have to offer towards that talent, not showing, because in this day of age, it's what's in it for me. It's not only you asking the talent, you have to do this, and you have this certain skills, and you're earning this, and you have to work full-time or part-time, which I'm going to do another topic regarding this in the near future. But show what you got and show what you can, what kind of added value your company has for that talent. And that's where I see employer branding can intertwine with workplace wellness.
Yeah, I mean, I just had this, I just left a comment on Emily, if you're tuning in now, her last article on, how you should interview for employer brand jobs. And I got the comment to say that, why do people keep associating recruitment marketing with employer brand? Because it's two totally different skill sets.
No.
Do you ask the brand consultant to do your social media marketing for you? No. So why are you putting the onus on an employer brand professional to do your recruitment marketing? Because marketing is a different set of objectives and different set of KPIs. For brand, we're all about positioning, all about making sure brand perception is positive, both internally and externally.
Okay.
Yep.
You brought that question already up. So let me ask that question. What are the top 3 of KPIs to measure in employer branding?
I tried. Okay, so I have a few things listed down. There's more than 3. But just on the employer branding side, so I think some things you can do are brand perception market studies. So depending on your EVP and what kind of pillars or culture pillars you want to associate your brand with, is the market also feeling the same way? So you can do regular brand perception market studies. For example, if you want to be seen as an employer that encourages learning and development, are you doing regular brand test studies to see, are candidates viewing you the same way? Because it might be that you think you are, but nobody else thinks you are. Then there's a disconnect there.
And is it only for the candidates, or is it also recommendable to do it internally and externally internally as well?
Definitely internally as well, but I know these days people are getting, survey fatigue. So usually companies do like an annual or biannual kind of employee engagement survey. So see if you can kind of put some brand perception questions as part of that rollout as well. The other things you can kind of measure yourself against are similar to the consumer side is, can we measure candidate satisfaction scores? And then employee satisfaction scores, and then also talent net promoter scores. So would you recommend a friend to come work at the company, is what we call talent net promoter. Yeah. And then, sometimes if you do your own surveys, you also have kind of rose-tinted glasses on. So bring in also external consultants if you have the resources to do kind of culture audits or bespoke culture surveys. There are providers and partners out there that do kind of specialize in that service. And of course, on the bigger kind of numbers game, this could be employer branding, could be recruitment marketing. I think they are connected. Are there percentages increase in successful referrals? Because if employees are happy, they want to bring their friends in, and they're successful, that means they're bringing in the right people. So is there an increase in successful referrals? Are there increase of applicants coming in from your employer brand sources? So like your careers website or your social media channels, increase of high quality applicants per position, and that can be defined, right? What high quality, like number of people going through to the next round.
We have a comment. Sorry to interrupt. We had a comment. So Lisa Castellijn, I don't know if you know her, but she's working at Booking.
Yes.
And she's saying, hi both. Thanks a lot for sharing your insights. I'm wondering if you have any best practices if you work in employer branding for global companies that have a lot smaller local teams in the regions. How do you ensure that the same sense of belonging translate, and how are you able to offer efforts such as meditation classes at scale? I think it's a combined question. So if you start off, then I'll finish it up later on. You're asking a lot of questions, Lisa. We're trying to answer them.
Yeah, I think it all ties back to the EVP, which I said I touched on but haven't. So an EVP is essentially a brand study that can take up to 6 months to 2 years to execute, depending on the size of your company. So an EVP study would compose of things like leadership interviews, employee focus groups across a range of geographical locations, and external candidate market surveys. So at the end of the exercise, what you want to get is like almost like a brand Bible on like, what does your brand stand for? What do we aspire to be? What are we good at now? What are we not good at now? And the creative expression of it. And I think once you have that brand Bible, which a lot of companies are actually not spending time on, when they bring in an employer brand person, they're like, I want you to quickly set up a channel, start posting content.
Yeah. But quick wins, right?
Yeah, where is that content coming from? What's the direction? And that actually stems from, you need to do research, right? Everything needs to be guided by research. So once you have that done, then if you have smaller teams elsewhere, that's what you could, start to communicate and distribute to your other local teams so that everyone is aligned, and also do workshops with them. Try to see, okay, if we want to be seen as a learning company or a company that cares, and this is what we want to be seen as and what people think we are, how do we continue to maintain that? Try to get them to think of examples to show how they can do that in their local offices, because a brand exercise.
You're including them as well, right?
Right. It's just a brand exercise.
You're including your people as well, because
they are the ones that will execute it. Yeah, they are the ones that will execute it, right? So if not, it'll just be a useless study. Yeah, and the thing that I learned at part of my as part of my experience is that there's no one size fits all. You're naive to think that you can roll out something and then everybody will just blindly like, yes, accept it. No, because they will have their opinions, they will have their own market insights. So allow for them to localize. Just as long as everyone knows what the end goal is, get them to come up with their own ideas and solutions to get to that goal. So it's about empowering the teams as well. So it's not all about control. I think we need to learn to let go sometime and trust that if everyone has the company's best interests at heart, that we will all land up in the same place.
And what I have to add on is regarding your the last section of your question, Lisa, making a change. It's a big thing. And it's also a big thing to convince everybody to embrace the change. And that's where I know for sure that starting small, do a pilot, hold pilots, within your own team, or maybe collaborate with another team who is open for this new idea, open for workshops, open for bringing in a positive change, and see if you can convince your manager, see if you convince the person that holds the money to at least do a pilot and at least try it out for 6 months, because making a change to do better, it takes time. It's like building a muscle. You're not having your summer body, just by going to the fitness room for maybe once in a while, right? You go there, you train consistently, you add in, you be consistent, but also know that you have to add in those flavors for a time, and then by then ask the people what they think, and also ask the people what they want, because inserting a workshop that nobody asked for will not be well received. So again, ask them, not by surveying, but just if it's a small team, ask them what they want and ask them what they're looking for them to bring their whole selves to the workplace. So I hope we answered your question, and if not, just share your question below so that we can answer that later on. Thank you, Lisa, for asking that question. And this question, I have to ask this one, because we had the discussion previous towards this interview, and I see employer branding, recruiting, just like you mentioned, like one person who's doing a lot of people topics, which should be like maybe 6 people who should be working on those different topics, but also putting the emphasis on onboarding on recruiting that person. And then, because I am hearing a lot of people saying, where's the love? Where's the love after 90 days? Where's the love after 180 days? Or where's the love after a year? Does employee branding end at onboarding?
No, of course, if you ask me. No. So, I mean, I think what you want to almost achieve as an employer brand team is to make sure that whatever anyone is saying anything about you as an employer, and when you think about when do people think of you as an employer, it's not just when they're a candidate, it's when they're an employee, it's when they're an ex-employee, it's when they're an investor considering...
Okay, sorry, I have to stop you. Please repeat that.
Repeat. So when do people think about you as an employer? It's not just when they're candidates, right? It's also when they're employees, and it's also when they're ex-employees. It could also be their investor and they're thinking whether to invest in your company. And nowadays, investors do look at company culture and how you perform as an employer. So as an employer brand team, our job is to make sure that whenever anyone just thinks about us as an employer, you want to make sure it is positive. Even better if it's in line with the external narrative you want to position your company in. So if you want to be seen as a global player, you want people thinking about you as a global player anytime they think about you as an employer. You want people talking about their international colleagues, their cross-border projects. Your core product is culture. So we're really here to sell culture, not just to the candidates, but also to employees, to ex-employees, to investors. So no, it doesn't just end at recruitment and onboarding. It goes all the way across the candidate journey until they leave to infinity and beyond. See where I type?
To infinity and beyond. No, I really love that you put an emphasis on, it doesn't end after onboarding. It's part of the employee journey. And it's just like what you shared. Once an employee exits, the way they talk about you and not putting in maybe an alumni group into place is also something that you should be looking into, because you never know, that same employee might be coming back towards your company. And if they left at a not so positive vibe with your company, or they have not anything positive to share about your company, it will hurt you. In the long run, it will hurt you, because they talk at birthdays, and you shared something about social media. People are sharing their experience, which can hurt your brand, especially now, but also in the future.
Correct.
Yeah.
When you go to a gathering, people ask you, "Oh, where are you now? Where are you working now? How's work?"
Yeah. I have another question. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right, but I'm doing my best. I have 𝗕𝗺𝗽𝗆. I'm not going to pronounce your last name, but she's saying, hi both. A question from Marilyn. To what extent do you measure candidate satisfaction score as in employer branding KPI, as there are limits to touchpoint areas of employer branding person can control versus talent acquisition, where their interaction range with candidates are wider? Wow, you guys know how to ask 5 different questions in just one question. Can you share something and maybe share in the comment section an extended version of your question, of your answer, sorry?
So
are you there? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So she's asking,
shall I say it again?
Yeah, to what extent candidate satisfaction or employee satisfaction should be against employer brand? Again, I think it depends on where you are placed within the organization to see whether that is a fair metric to measure yourself against. Because if you are placed in, say, if you are reporting under recruitment and you don't really have much power to effect change in other parts of the employee journey, and maybe it's not so fair. But if you're placed, say, reporting directly to the head of people or even directly to the CEO, then I think you do need to be measured against something as big as that, because that's your remit, the entire candidate journey. maybe some people are going to hate me for this, but I think, yeah, it's a big goal, but then that is the power of what employer brand can achieve. And maybe people are just scared to acknowledge that is a goal that actually we can affect change on. Yeah, so I think it really depends on where you are placed currently in your organization, and then come up with goals that make sense for you to measure it against. And it's different for everybody. Yeah, this is just a possible thing that you might want to take as a metric.
I also have another question, because for those who are curious about employer branding, having a career in employer branding, what are the three things that you can share for them to achieve that or to go after that goal?
I think I come from like a context of where I've worked on different aspects of employer branding. So I started employer branding as a creative. So I oversaw creative execution and production from an employer brand perspective. And within the team, there was someone just looking at marketing, and there was someone just looking at strategy, and there was someone looking at events. So you can see there are all kinds of course, it starts with strategy, but then how you communicate that brand, you then do need to look at ways to amplify that message. So I think first identify which part of employer branding you are most interested to contribute in, and then find out if your company has a function, and then just start talking to them. Just find out what your company is currently doing for employer brand, or join community groups around. Surprisingly, there's a lot. When I moved back, I quickly found one and just got to know a lot of friends. So I think depending on what you want to work on in employer brand, then there are specific skill sets that you should, I guess, that you could develop yourself in.
Can you start a career from if you have a marketing background, or do you need to have a HR background, or is that important in working at employer branding?
So I've known a lot of people that come from both. I think what's important is that you do need some marketing knowledge. You can come from a HR background, but work on getting that marketing knowledge and brand building strategy knowledge in. Or you could come from a brand or marketing background, but make sure you are also open to learning about HR policies and people, how the people team is run in organizations. So because it's kind of like a weird role where there's a lot of crossover. So I would say that if you're an employer brand, you should just be really open to learning. So, yeah.
Okay. And the last question that I have for you, what is your vision and your hope when it comes to employer branding in 2025?
I just realized 2025 is not really that far off. It's just 5 years from now.
I know.
Yeah.
But you still can have a dream. You still can have a vision for that.
Well, I hope that more and more teams will move towards a structure whereby they are really being placed in the right place in the organization. And I hope that they will be considered as an equal to company brand. And that, more brand professionals or more HR professionals will start to take the topic more seriously and, move us into a position where we are able to affect change across culture and not just recruitment.
Why are you saying that? I feel an underlining why. Can you share why? What it is that made you share that answer now? Because do you feel like employer branding doesn't have that much power to make change, to raise more awareness, to make that change?
Yeah, at the moment, yes, because look at all the job descriptions you've been reading about employer branding.
Yeah,
it's
true.
It's either very one-sided. It's really more a recruitment marketing role than an employer brand role, or that people are hiring managers are not thinking big enough. They think, oh, we need to hire more people in. We're seeing a drop in applicants. We need to bring an employer brand person, without really fully understanding what employer brand is. So I hope that with like sessions like this, or that with education, that things will change. Because when you think of brand in the sense of the word, you don't think of, what do you think of when I say that I do brand at a certain company?
I would think that you would work, you would work for their brand. So for instance, you would work for 𝗘𝗺𝗽 instead of doing branding towards hiring people or towards creating an environment or showing an environment where people feel happy to stay. That's, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bigger picture, right, that you have in your head rather than just recruitment.
Yeah.
So I think, I think that I do see shifts in industry and how companies are, choosing where to place the employer brand team or professional in. So yeah, I'm really hopeful. I think that we can do it together.
Definitely,
as an EB industry, yeah.
I am going to say, don't leave. Please don't leave. I didn't share that in the beginning that I'm going to close off, but I would like to say thank you all the way up from Singapore. But thank you. It has been, I could talk for hours. I could talk for hours regarding this topic. So I am going to think about it, maybe create something, maybe create a conversation with you and Emily and maybe a few other employer branding experts. I see you as an employer branding, as he doesn't like it when I say that, but I see you as one of the employer branding experts internationally, and I hope that the others will see. I hope that the others will value your answers because they are so valuable. The lady who shared who you answered the last question was also appreciative of your answer. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And for those of you who are just tuning in now, this is Marilyn Yee. This is the woman who's sitting next to me is Marilyn Yee. And she is an amazing woman, an amazing employer branding expert. So if you have any questions regarding employer branding, connect with her and ask her questions. And if you have any questions regarding workplace wellness or regarding building your team, connect with me or ask me questions. And it has been a delight. I'm closing off to show what's happening this week and next week. But we'll chat afterwards. So I have to remove Marilyn from the stream and then go back to this one, right? So upcoming Thursday will be a totally Dutch live stream. So I'm going to be talking about workplace bullying, so pesten op het werk. I'm going to be talking about Karen Bosman. She is also available in English, so I'm definitely going to do something with her in English regarding workplace bullying. But for now, upcoming Thursday will be about Dutch. It will be about workplace bullying. And next week, this was a bit of a last minute thing at the moment, so I don't have the images of my panel yet. But next week will be about time for inclusive diversity. It will be a panel conversation. So it will be 4 women discussing how to create an inclusive diversity within the company. I have to still think about questions. So if you have any questions or things that you want me to ask or things that I need to look into, just share that here or message me or follow me and contact me so that I can include your question to that. And I would like to say thank you. Thank you for being a fan. Thank you for joining in. And thank you for, if you're watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. It has been a joy for me for doing this. Let's humanize the workplace. It's all about inspiring employers, but also employees to create a thriving workplace. And I need your help and you need my help. And I need, all the experts to help inspire you and your colleagues or your employer to create a thriving workplace. My name is 𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗏 and I'm the Workplace Wellness Advocate. Thank you, and maybe till Thursday and otherwise till next week, Tuesday. It will be later because my guest is based here in Amsterdam, so it will be later, but know that you can always watch the replay. Thank you. Bye.